Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris. This was a donated request by Intello. This is The Presidents, featuring Louis CK. It's a podcast. Let's do it.
Wicked wild, wild. Wicked wild, wicked wild, wicked wild, wild west. Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider. No, you don't want nada. The Wild Wild West.
Guys, this is a history podcast.
Sure. Serious.
Let's talk presidents. In fact, let's talk all of them in order.
Yep.
That was it?
Hold on.
No.
Just wait. Let's talk Washington, Adams.
Okay, he's going to do it. Okay, hold on. Let me get a sip of tea here. Okay. Get some water now because that was warm. Okay, let's do it. Number 1, George Washington. I'm going to add my own stuff to this. Number 1, George Washington. I've read a book on him, several books, visited home and grave. Number 2, John Adams. Read a book, nothing else. 3, Thomas Jefferson. Book, home and grave. Number 4, James Madison. Home and grave. Number 5, James Monroe. Read a book, visited the grave. Okay. That was James Monroe, 5. Number 6, John Quincy Adams, read a book. Number 7, Andrew Jackson, read a book, home and grave. Number 8, Martin Van Buren, nothing. Number 9, William Henry Harrison, book, visited his home. He's the first president to die in office. He was replaced by number 10, John Tyler, visited his grave. Number 11, James K. Polk, book, and his ancestral home. No James K. Polk home remains. This is his father's home, but all his stuff is in it. Number 12, Zachary Taylor, second man to die in office. I have a book, but I haven't read it. Nothing with Zachary Taylor. Number 13, Zachary Taylor, as I said, died in office. Or I forgot to say, he did die in office. He was replaced by Millard Fillmore, number 13. Nothing. Number 14, Franklin Pierce. Nothing. 15, James Buchanan. Nothing. 16, Abraham Lincoln. Several books, home and grave. 17, Andrew Johnson, nothing. 18, Ulysses S. Grant, read a book, visited home. 19, Hayes. Rutherford B. Hayes. Nothing. Number 20, James Garfield. Nothing. I have a book on him. James Garfield, also, I should go back. Lincoln assassinated, replaced Andrew Johnson. We're back at 20. James Garfield, also assassinated, replaced by number 21, Chester A. Arthur. Read a book on Arthur. 22, Grover Cleveland, nothing. 23, Benjamin Harrison, home and grave. 24, back to Grover Cleveland, nothing. 25, William McKinley, nothing. 26, Teddy Roosevelt. I've read 2 of the 3-part trilogy about him. He's 26. 27, William Howard Taft. I have a 3-part book on him, but nothing. 28, Woodrow Wilson, read a book, visited a boyhood home. 29, Warren G. Harding, nothing, have a book. Number 30, Calvin Coolidge, read a book, no visit. 31, Herbert Hoover, read a book, visited home and grave. 32, FDR. Haven't read anything about him or visited. 30, he died in office, was replaced by number 33, Harry Truman. Read a book, visited his home and grave in November last year. He's 33. 34 would be Dwight Eisenhower. Same trip. I've read a book, visited his home and grave. 35 is John Kennedy. Nothing on him. 36, he died in office, was replaced by Lyndon Baines Johnson at 36. Nothing on him. 37 would be Nixon. Nothing on him. 38 would be Gerald Ford. I have a book, but nothing. 39, Jimmy Carter. Again, I have a book. Haven't read it. Nothing on him. He was my president when I was born. 40, Ronald Reagan. Read a book. Visited his boyhood home. 41, George H.W. Bush. Have a book, but nothing. 42, Clinton. I read his diary in the White House, but other than that, nothing. He's 42. 43 would be George W. Bush. I've read 2 of 3 books about his time in office, and then I read another one called Trial by Fire. Oh, that was a good one. But no visit. He's 43. 44 would be Obama. I read part 1 of Obama's book, but no visit. 45, Trump, nothing. 46, Biden, nothing. Okay.
Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Adams, Jackson, Van Buren, Harrison, Tyler, Polk, Taylor, Fillmore,
Pierce,
Buchanan, Lincoln, Johnson, Grant, Hayes, Garfield, Arthur, Cleveland, Harrison, Cleveland, McKinley, Roosevelt, Taft, Wilson, Harding, Coolidge,
31,
Hoover,
32, FDR,
Roosevelt. No, hold on, give me a second. Hoover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
FDR.
Roosevelt. Truman.
Oh, yeah.
Second. Truman. Eisenhower. JFK. Johnson. Nixon. Ford. Carter. Reagan.
Bush. Carter.
Clinton. Bush.
Carter.
Obama. Trump.
Did you say Obama now?
I think that's how Trump said
Obama.
it.
Wow.
Obama.
It took me all night.
Damn, dude.
You studied for that all night?
No, it took a half hour, but it was pretty
That's
intense.
pretty good.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I had to keep practicing. I was doing it before.
Mine took me about an hour because I was trying to do the names in order, and then I was associating it with the number so that I just tell somebody, call out a number. They'd call out the number, and I would tell them the president. And then I was trying to also link the time, like Washington is 1789 to 1797, 97 to 01, 01 to 09 for Jefferson, 09 to 17, Madison. I was trying to do the numbers, but then it got hazy. This isn't about me. I apologize.
Poor bed.
Do
Like I was praying.
Do the vice presidents.
Adams.
John Adams.
Are you
Thomas
seriously going
Jefferson.
to try?
I could go. I think I could
Here's
go
a good
decent.
piece of trivia, and don't look it up.
Nope.
Okay.
Here's a quiz question. Who is Johnson, Lyndon Baines Johnson's vice president after Kennedy was shot, who became the vice president?
He didn't have one.
Your mother's cunt.
Oh,
It
well.
wasn't her.
It was not.
It wasn't your mother, it was her cunt.
Her cum was a. Wait a second. This is a history podcast.
Yeah.
What if that was true?
You're telling me Joan's gone.
Yeah, because he only needed her for 1 year. And then
She's
when he
gonna be
ran
so
for,
excited. She's
then
gonna
when
be
he
so
ran,
excited to watch this.
then when he ran, he got somebody else. But he was like, he called up, Joan, I need your cunt to be my vice. He called her from Dallas. You know that famous picture of him on the plane?
That was
He called her right before that.
Standing
I
next to
need your vagina to be my president, my vice president.
all right. So let's start from
Jacqueline Carter. She covered in blood.
the top. Mom, I'm so sorry that he said that.
I'm not. I never met your mom.
You held back. You held
Very
back.
sweet. Very sweet. Very
Your
sweet.
mom. All right. Let's start with Washington, dude.
Yeah.
What do you guys know about him? What do you say?
I mean, Washington is
Never
like
lied.
a transitionary guy because he was so British. He was a British general. He wasn't like a, you know.
Sorry. He wasn't a British general. He didn't get accepted into the... He tried to get into the British military. They did not accept him. He was a colonial American, some backwoodsman. So he wasn't... Now, he'd wanted to be. His brother... his half-brother, Lawrence, was in the British Navy.
He wasn't born in the he didn't create America. It wasn't even his idea.
He was born in Virginia.
Yeah.
He was just a tool of. He was the first general president.
No, he was born in the U.S.
No, I know, but he wasn't like he was a Brit. He was a
Yeah, he
was
fought
a
in the
Brit.
French and Indian War as a British.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's a lord.
He
Wasn't
actually kind of sucked in that.
No, he was not a
in
lord.
that war.
In fact, also kind of...
Everybody sucked in the wars. Though.
Everything he did was
It
retreating.
was luck to win anything. Then
Yeah. He was good at retreating. That was like his number one
it's the
thing.
important thing to.
You have a militia going up against the best military in the world. Yeah, that's what you do. You retreat. And he also didn't fight his men the same way the British did out. No, I shouldn't say that. He did. It didn't work, and he found that out. That's why a lot of the retreats happened. He was 3-6 in terms of battlefield win-loss record. Not good, but retreat was an important thing for him. He also did utilize the way that the Indian fighters or Native Americans, whatever you're supposed to say, the way they fought, to hide behind trees and so on and so forth, and then retreat. He did find that to be helpful.
Which
good
is
at.
very good in war. They don't
Otherwise,
teach
you
that.
lose once. He would fight again because he retreated so well.
Yeah.
It's pretty tight though. Show up and be like, nah, and
Yeah.
just run away. I'm like, nice.
1789. That's when he started.
As
Well,
president.
most of the guys.
1789, he started as president. He resigned his commission in 1783, and he retired, as they say, which is not true. He did not retire at all. He was in contact with James Madison, John Jay. I don't remember the other guy. But they were working hard behind the scenes to get a federal government established.
It was so hard. Like
A real federal government, not just the Articles of the Confederation. They were really trying to get a strong central government.
a lot of the army didn't want to be there and didn't have to be there. It's crazy. Like 1776, the year that Washington did all that insane shit. It's crazy that people kept expecting the army to flee,
Yeah.
but they hung in there with little. It's not like they were like, we're making America that's coming later.
Yeah.
They had no fucking idea.
Yeah.
So he's as good as they were, basically. And it's not, you picture him on.
The reason why he was able to hold them together is because he was such a great leader, a charismatic guy, and people looked up to him. He was also 6'3", 225 pounds in a time when people were not that tall, not that big, and not that athletically gifted. He had a good, solid build. So, just like today, there are people who will look up to other people based on their physical size, and some people go along with charismatic kind of ability to talk and just be a leader. He had all those qualities, so he was able to keep a lot of those people together.
On this horse, like talking, but no, most of them didn't even look at the guy. They didn't see him. You know, like in the movies when they show a guy making a speech to a whole army, and there's 3 guys can hear him.
It's impossible.
And the rest are like, what's even happening? And they're all shitting on
It's
the
like
ground.
Braveheart
They're
when
all
he's giving
dying
the
of-
speech. The only
Yeah.
people that can hear him are like, "Shut up!"
Yes,
Those
yeah.
2 dudes are like,
Yeah,
"The
yeah.
English are too many."
The English are too many.
Home.
Yes, we will, and we will live.
We will live.
That's a good
All right.
point. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
No one heard those.
No one
speeches.
hears
No one
English.
heard any of their speeches, so it was really these guys all got together. I don't know. They got
stood
together.
there.
They decided to just keep doing it.
Oh,
I don't want to spend too much time on Washington.
Yeah, Washington. I was
played
never that.
out.
I never really. I mean, the great thing he did was leaving when it was time to go.
Yeah.
It was like the thing because a lot of them wanted him to be king.
Yeah.
And a lot of them wanted him to be permanent. He's the one who said the thing where they wanted him to be Adams.
Yeah,
wanted
Adams.
him to be Your Majesty or Your
Yeah.
Excellency,
They went by His Excellency.
and he said, "Mr. President."
No.
What?
Jefferson was the first Mr. President.
Yeah, but
So Washington did go by Mr. President, but His Excellency meant a little bit more than Mr. President. Mr. President was not a name that was associated with a leader of a government. Just like when he retired and went back to Mount Vernon, people didn't say Mr. President, Mr. President. They called him General Washington because the president didn't mean what it meant. It didn't mean then what it means now. We understand what the president is. Back then, president was nothing. But general, everyone had a military and everyone had generals. And a general was known world around. President? Okay. Wherever the hell that guy is. He's the president. Okay. Whatever. He's a former... He's the president of the country, but he used to be a general. Oh, okay. That was... You understood that.
Washington wanted Mr. President.
Washington went with His Excellency because Adams had this long one. His Majesty, all this shit.
what?
Washington kept His Excellency.
According to the HBO series about John Adams,
Yeah, but I looked into it.
Washington said, "I want Mr. President."
Maybe he did, but he went by His Excellency. Therefore, the reason he did it,
Thomas Jefferson might have been called the first Mr. President, and that's because John Adams, during his presidency, the White House got finished, enough to move into. But when Thomas Jefferson was elected, he moved right in. He was ready to go. So, calling him Mr. President might have been in the official kind of thing. Maybe.
was because he didn't want to shake people's hands. And back then, that kind of...
Because he was like Howie Mandel.
Yeah, he was like, he'd rather just
He was
have
a
people
germaphobe?
bow. I don't think he was a germaphobe as much as he just was like, this does command some respect.
When he went around the country, kind of just looking, he wanted the people to see him. He refused to stay in homes of friends or former military buddies or anything like that. He stayed because he didn't want it to seem like there was any potential, oh, he's staying at that guy's house. He didn't want any of that. He stayed by himself in, hotel, I'll say, but he stayed in places where it was okay. He wasn't going to stay with somebody and then have to risk them trying to talk over dinner about, hey, this is what we should do. Well, how about this? How about that? He wanted to be disassociated so that it didn't look like he was doing anyone favors. If any of that
This is
made
the first
sense.
time in his life he started to get criticism.
Really?
Because when he was a general, everybody globally, outside of England, was like, "This guy's the fucking."
By the way,
man.
president. Like, to talk about that word for a second, what a president is. Like, just an overall president thought here. What I love about presidents is that it's a human being, it's a person.
Yep.
And to me, like, it's like like some college professors teach the Bible as literature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they don't teach the Bible as a religious subject. They teach it as like what it's done for history and what the stories are about, and that kind of thing. I look at U.S. presidents that way. I don't have a political view about any of them. I just think they're fucking fascinating. And president, the word by itself, like, your president is nothing. It's not. You're not a leader. You're not a ruler. You don't rule. You preside. I mean, that's literally what it means, is that there's a whole group of people that are running the government by the people's will, and you preside. You just happen to be there. It's like in the Senate, whenever they show people in the Senate speaking, they always say Mr. President over and over again. And they're speaking to whoever is presiding. It's never the vice president is literally the president of the Senate, but it's whoever takes the chair that day. Who's presiding? It's an incidental title given to an equal who is chosen for that minute to preside. That's what I like about it. That's what I like about how they framed it.
Yeah. When did they set term limits? I didn't even look into that because he just left.
Right, he was the first one to go. I could stay, but let's get this going. Let's get this started.
Yeah.
I muted the mic. Term limits, I think, were set in the late 50s, more than likely the 60s. FDR did 4 terms, died in office. And I think after that, they were kind of like, we should do something about that.
There's some famous moment where he was speaking to the Congress, and they were trying to get him to king himself. And he was apparently really vain about that he wore glasses, so no one ever saw him with glasses on. And so the moment that's supposed to be this shocking moment was that he took out his glasses and put them on, and he said, like, I fear I didn't see you for what you are. That was supposed to be this big moment.
Okay. I don't know what he's talking about. The only thing that I know... By the way, I said 50s and 60s. I meant 1950s and 60s. So I think this is what he's talking about. The war was over, so to speak, and the Revolutionary War. A bunch of the soldiers had not been paid. The Continental Congress did not have any money, couldn't afford to pay anyone. So, how do I... Oh, sorry. All the soldiers had gathered, and they had some captains or, whatever. They had other... It wasn't just soldiers. It was a lot of guys. And they got together, and they decided they were going to march on Philadelphia, on the Capitol. And they were going to demand pay, and I think they were even going to try to overthrow the government, So Washington gets wind of this. He then walks into this meeting hall where they were having this discussion. And of course, when he walks in, all the soldiers and everything are kind of thinking, yes, is Washington on our side? Is he about to lead us? We can crown him. He'll be the king of this country. They were excited because they thought he was on their side. He walks up, pulls out this speech, and starts to read it, and then stops, and he says something to the effect of, he starts pulling out his spectacles, glasses, and says something to the effect of, you'll have to forgive me. Not only have I gone gray in the service of my country, I've gone blind too. Not only have I gone gray in the service of my country, I've gone blind too. And he puts on his spectacles, and every soldier that was there started to cry because they were looking out for their best interest, which was getting paid. Hey, no fault there. But they're looking at this guy who has not accepted a single penny. By the way, he did get paid. He basically, everything he did was paid for by them. He didn't collect a salary, But you better believe, if he spent $1, he wrote it in and he got reimbursed that $1. So he was taken care of. But he did not profit financially off of it. But he might have, when he wrote his receipts, might have tacked on a little bit extra. That's hearsay. But all these soldiers started weeping because this guy didn't get paid to do any of this. He's gotten gray because of the stress, and he's gone blind. And yet here he is, still willing to lead. And so that really kind of brought everyone together in this aspect of, maybe we're not doing the right thing.
I like to think
It'd be
that
funny
if
if he
he
was
did,
dumb.
like he was really hoping if he missed, he's like, I fear I didn't see. And they're all like, yeah, you wear glasses. We all, you know what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
Like he keyed the whole thing on this moment. See what I'm saying? And they're like, George.
Yeah, it's also a good moment for him to be like, yeah, you're right. You should not.
How
be
do you
king.
turn down
You're
king
trying to do
status,
funny
though?
jokes.
What?
How do you turn down? Like,
That's what
you
makes
should
him
be
the
king, and you're like,
That's what makes
no.
him the man, dude.
That's wild, dude.
That's what makes him.
Well, also,
like,
he wasn't, again, none of these people knew the future. He didn't know that he was giving away the keys to later nuclear war America.
True, yeah.
He thought we were a dumb fucking, like, what?
Yeah, and these were all
Yeah.
separate colonies.
Like,
True,
if Louisiana became a separate nation, the first president of Louisiana might be like, you guys, I'll do one term.
Yeah, I'm
It's
done.
good. I don't need to, like, hang in there.
all right,
So-
Adams.
Okay, Adams is, like, my favorite of those guys. Of
I
the
like
founding
Adams.
fathers.
I like
dudes.
Adams.
Real fast. The reason why he didn't accept, I thought they might get into it. He didn't accept being a king because kings have all power. He did not want that. If he wanted a king, he would have stayed affiliated with England, and he had already had problems with the king. Washington was a big fan of Cincinnatus. Cincinnati, Ohio is named after Cincinnatus, but there was a social, I think the Order of Cincinnatus, it was a social club. And Cincinnatus was a Roman, became a Caesar, basically. Was given dictatorial, is that the right word? Powers? Dictator powers? Dictatorial power. And he led the military in a fight against somebody, and Rome won. He then handed power back to the people. Like, he didn't even use it for the full 18 months or whatever the power structure was. 5 years, I don't remember. He didn't use it for the whole thing. He gave the power back. 20, 30, 40 years later, another war, they pull him out, give him those powers. Cincinnatus. He goes off, helps fight this war, they win, comes back, turns the power over, didn't even need it that whole period, went back to being a farmer. Washington idolized people like that because being a general, when you got power, you kept it. Look at Napoleon. Napoleon said that France wanted another Washington, referring to him. That's not what he wanted. So that's why he wasn't a king. He didn't want to be a king. He wanted the power, but he didn't want to make it seem like he wanted the power. He's a very complicated person in some aspects.
Adams from the show. I loved him in that. He was great, Paul Giamatti.
Well, I read
John Adams, HBO series by Paul Giamatti is the actor. It's fabulous. Not 100% accurate, but it's a very good depiction.
his biography. I listened to it. I don't read
As a
anything.
president,
Counts.
Oh, he was not a great president.
not at all.
It shows everybody's got these different kind of strengths.
He was a grumpy, mean old man.
He was a great framer. He was one of the guys. He did many very important and gutsy things. And he was also the only one of those guys who was not rich. He was a poor farmer. He was his education changed his life. He's like one of the first Americans who had that experience, where he was, had a decent farm, but not much, but he made his brain work, and he excelled and passed that on to his son, who we'll talk about.
He
John
fucking
Quince.
ruled in the revolution.
Yeah.
Adams was the man.
Adams
to
was
stick
the
to
man,
his-
and because these other guys, fucking Benjamin Franklin was just a giant perverted asshole.
I loved him.
Oh, he was great. And all these guys are
Yeah.
great. I'm not judging any of them, but he wasn't. He was of limited use because he was intrigued by America, but he didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He never would have shed a fucking any blood or sweat or tears for the country. He just was interested, and he had a huge brain, so he'd lend it when he felt like. He was also full of shit. You know, like he was supposedly invented electricity, but some other guy, he saw a guy in his own autobiography.
What?
Hold
He
on
saw-
a second.
he
I
never
just watched
faked
Ken
anything.
Burns on him. I'm pumped on him right now.
Okay, so he saw a guy do the kite,
What?
and he was like, "That's cool," and he paid the guy for like the license to the gag, and he got one of his sons to do it, to go around doing it for money. It was just a thing that he picked up other people's ideas, which is its own thing.
He also
I don't know anything about that. That's my contribution to that point.
all of his inventions he would never patent, which is
Really?
pretty sick. He was like, all my inventions are for everybody.
Yeah, he was
Tight.
for what do you call it? Open source.
Open source.
But
yeah.
he did get a little jealous because all of a sudden, because he was the man.
Yeah.
He was the American that everybody loved.
Be
And
frank.
then then Washington became the man.
The general.
Like the French were like General Washington's the guy. So he got a little. He was a fame hungry.
Did you ever read his
Yeah.
autobiography?
No.
It's amazing because he has no judgment of himself. So he's the only, like, a lot of people that write autobiographies, it's kind of careful. But like he tells this story about he was living in London and there was a guy who worked for him, kind of like a half tradesman kind of guy who he befriended. And the guy had a woman he wanted to marry, a maiden, but he didn't have a position and he didn't have his own home yet. So, and his mother didn't want, I don't remember all the logistics, but it was that that he asked Benjamin if he could move his wife into his house so that they could marry. And he said,
Yikes.
sure. And he said, and she moved into my home. And then I took it of my pleasure to,
Fucked her.
to partake of her sexually. And she, spurned my advances, so I threw her out, and that was the end of their marriage. And I never saw him again. He was real upset, and I never saw him again. But I know both their lives were destroyed. And then in May, I met this other guy. Like he
Yeah.
just talks. He did awful things to people, and didn't
He
give a
kind
shit.
of, yeah.
I keep muting my mic. Really funny story about Ben Franklin. He was in England for a while as a diplomat, and then got kicked out of England because he got caught sending correspondence back to the Americans, basically telling them things that England did not want him to know, let alone share. And they had spies all over the place. And he ends up going to France. And while he's in France, while he was in England, he made legit friends who didn't understand why the colonies were acting this way, but they truly did respect Franklin. Franklin really did. He really did get a lot of respect. He truly was thought highly of. And so he used to have correspondence back and forth with this person in England. And I want to say the person wrote a letter to Franklin basically saying, this isn't going to work out well for your people. These colonial farmers, they're not soldiers like we are. They're this, they're that. It's just not going to work out for them, and you need to stop this. And so a couple years later, however long it was, Washington, I think this is what it was. Washington defeated Lord Cornwallis at Yorktown, and Cornwallis surrendered. And Franklin sent a letter to his British friend basically saying, what do you think about those farmers now? I gotta think that their friendship ended shortly after that.
There's some pretty sick quotes about slavery too. that he was like, I am racist. Like he was one of the first, if not the only founding father to like constantly be like, I am bigoted.
Right.
None of them, everyone else was like, this is the law.
Everybody was like, Ben.
Yeah, shut the
This is it's economics.
You're trying to fuck this
it's not
up.
about
He's
race.
like,
He's like,
wrong.
oh, it's totally about race.
Yeah, they were writing the Constitution like, look, our hands are tied. We can't do anything.
They had to break it out.
So he was when he showed focus, he was of use to like the revolution. And the same with Jefferson. Jefferson was like a depressive fucking freak. And so he would just like leave Washington. Yeah. He would just go like, my wife is dead, whatever bullshit. And he would get on his horse and just leave, because also he was a man of great wealth, and he had his life in Monticello and in Virginia was, we'll get to him, but the point is that Adams was just a doggedly hard-working. He was the only one who worked constantly.
Yeah.
And it was really the three of them in Madison, but he was the guy who did the hardest work to get this shit started.
Yeah.
He also apologized for cursing.
Adams?
In one of his things, he's like, I lament to admit that I sometimes cursed, which I feel shameful about.
Also, when Adams did his did the Constitution of Massachusetts, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is like the most liberal document in the world, because Adams was like, he's like, I'm going to get it right. Everything that I couldn't get done in the American Constitution, I'm doing in this. And there's stuff in there about Jews having rights. There's even something about gay people in there. Like he was into like gay rights, Jews.
Pretty gay back then.
It's pretty gay, pretty Jewish.
It's gay to be a gay Jew.
It's gay to be into Jews.
Yeah.
Dude,
to be into Jewish rights in the 1700s was gay.
Those parliaments
undeniably gay.
Undeniably
crazy
gay.
back then. Like, I don't know, what about Jews? People are like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
It's
what are
like,
you
come on,
talking about,
guys.
Jews?
Back then, have a room full of dude in powder wigs being like, boo!
Yeah. And the Jews looked exactly they looked the same as they do now. The big black coats,
exact same outfits,
same way.
Hold on, I got what Adams did while he was in office. He was worried that his logic was another country could just come take this at any moment. So he came up with the Alien and Sedition Act.
Yeah, the Alien and Sedition Act basically said, if you say anything negative about the government or whatever, you go to jail. The problem is that we have that First Amendment, that pesky freedom of speech thing that Americans like to talk about. And John Adams felt that you have that freedom of speech. You just can't say anything negative about me, the administration, the country. But enjoy that freedom of speech that you have. Well, it's not freedom then, is it? I mean, look, there are some things you can't say. Like, I can't be in a crowded movie theater and yell fire. That's a crime. And it should be. Because then you cause a panic and people could get hurt. You know, we understand there are limits to it. It's not complete freedom. But you can't lock someone up. Lincoln did the same thing. But that's...
Which meant, if you talk shit on the government, we can jail you. Mm-hmm. So he started arresting journalists. He started...
Well, he was the first liberal who got befuddled by guys that back then it was another Democrat. It was Jefferson.
Yeah,
going like whatever it takes to win.
Yeah,
it's always been like the different parts of American democracy, the different kinds of people. The people who are like, we got to get this right. We got to sell our good ideas and convince people we're right. But then the other guys who are like, we just got to take office. We just need to win. And nerds lose that fight. Adams was the first one-term nerd president. There's a few of them.
Yes, you're exactly right.
Bush the first is another one.
He's a one-term guy. He was from 97 to 01.
Yep.
Let's move to Jefferson.
He's number 3.
All right. We're going to probably go back a few seconds to where he said, let's move to Jefferson. Okay. That was the part 1. I might take it to here, to John Quincy Adams. JQA, as I've always called him. I've never called him that. There's a thanks button on the channel. You can donate if you'd like. You can request things if you do. You don't have to request anything. There's a subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, click on that. Thumbs up. That helps me tremendously. thumbs down if you want to do that. That's cool. You can come over to my house sometime. I've got this new thing called the guillotine. I'd love to put you in it. So until next time, have a good day, have a good night.